Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at an interview that Yoshi-P did over at Gamescom, this time with the media outlet PC Games N, which I think has a pretty good track record with good interviews with Yoshi-P. So, this is from Ken Alsop, and I will include a link to it in the description below. Of course, since I'm referencing this, I've got it up. I've got like the images blocked because, it just doesn't make for good YouTube, but always go to the original article, always give it a click because, they put out the original content and we're just kind of talking about it. So, I have already saw the title to this interview, and I think it's actually up here, so let me scroll up. Final Fantasy XIV director Yoshida is ready to fix the MMO's difficulty problem starting now. That's an interesting statement because difficulty problem is such a variable thing. Now, obviously, as you can see from the subtext under it, it's largely referring to the quantum thing with Deep Dungeon. But I don't think that 14 is a difficulty problem so much as it doesn't provide enough in-game tools to move people kind of up through the difficulties if they really want to. They just kind of have to always be willing to take leaps. And then some people think that the game's too easy. So it's really just depending on who you ask. So, as the Final Fantasy XIV patch 7.35 Deep Dungeon prepares to add more varied challenges to the MMORPG, we asked director Yoshi-P where else it might fit. He is prepared to fix the problem starting now. Yoshi-P talks about Fort Tower, new variant dungeon, Pilgrim's Traverse, and when we can play Beastmaster. Now, of course, I've been predicting Beastmaster 7.5x with the Blue Mage level cap being in 7.4x. Hopefully, we'll get some answers to that in this video. New Final Fantasy XIV Deep Dungeon Pilgrim's Traverse is set to be a landmark moment for the long-running MMORPG. Game director Naoki Yoshida introduced the feature, which will arrive in Final Fantasy XIV patch 7.35, as an experiment to test a few things we want to change about 14 overall. A big part of this is finding ways to make more content appealing to a wider range of players, so where else could we see this introduced? At Gamescom, we sat down with Yoshi-P himself to discuss the upcoming variant dungeon, Ultimate Raid, and when we'll finally see the Beastmaster limited job. While I wasn't able to make it to Gamescom this year, Jamie put my most pressing final... Oh, so we could thank Jamie for these questions as well. My most pressing Final Fantasy XIV questions to Yoshida at the show. Coding had a team plans to learn from Pilgrim's Traverse to help deliver the level of activity variety that the best MMORPGs need. Yoshida is quick to note the team is not currently planning to implement any kind of new variable difficulty into previous content, but certainly a key consideration moving forward. Yeah, I don't know if they weren't going to retroactively... I mean, we do know they're going to go back and do some, like, regular tuning to the old Deep Dungeons. Making it so it's a little easier to get through Palace of the Dead 1 to 50 by making Ether Pool much easier to get was a big thing that they listed. That being said, yeah, it's not like I expected to get a, quantum version of like the floor 190 boss or something like that. With patch 7.4, we are working on the next installment of the variant dungeon. With the changes that we are implementing in Pilgrim's Traverse, we will also be implementing similar changes based on feedback in the new variant dungeon. If you didn't catch the live letter 88, the gist of the difficulty starts out gentle and ramps up with the top-end battle that you're able to modularly tweak the challenge of by using offerings to gradually increase the enemy's stats and mechanical complexity. So quantum variant is a little strange. It really depends on what they mean, because I don't think they mean the entire variant dungeon being tuned. I think it's a case of doing the variant dungeon unlocks the criterion, and the criterion is where the quantum difficulty comes into play. So instead of being like criterion and criterion savage, it could be just like criterion quantum, and as you increase the offerings, for example, maybe at max offerings, it disables the ability to res, and then you have to start over like it is for Criterion Savage, and then there's a title for that. But that all the rewards are effectively still baked into the same mode, so you don't have to tackle that mode for any particular reason. There's a lot of ways that can go, and until I actually see the first bit of Quantum, I'm not going to say it's automatically a good idea. I think that we really need to see Pilgrim's Traverse pan out, and hopefully they're ready to pretty rapidly take the feedback from Pilgrim's Traverse and use it to shape the criterion or the variant, or however they plan on naming it now with this whole quantum thing, because it could go very wrong. It's not like guaranteed slam dunk in any capacity. Patch 7.5 will bring the second installment of Fort Tower Raid, which has proven rather notorious. The first part is mechanically involved and requires a large player count, which is exciting if you're able to organize a high-end squad to come along, but means that most people only experience it through watching videos for now. I love Occult Crescent's frantic battles, but I don't have the free time in my schedule to slide into a coordinated raid group and prog the fight, so Fort Tower's been off the table for me. A lot of people feel that way. I will say, if you're someone who's been a little intimidated, ever since they made the changes to make getting in a lot easier, there's been a lot more coordinated runs. Heck, I've seen my fair share of like groups that are hardcore farming out 100 clears. which I didn't think was going to be like a dedicated thing they were working on, but it's just gotten to the point where it's that kind of, the turnaround on being able to do it is so reliable that it's not really all that bad. But it's a matter of time. If you don't have the free time, it doesn't really change anything, which is where a lot of this discussion came from. When the second Fork Tower raid arrives, Yoshida says a similar system of Pilgrim's Traverse could be a possibility, and adds we are working on providing several difficulties of that content for players to enjoy. Moving forward, for content that we produce in 14, it could be that we incorporate a scheme where there's a variable difficulty. Or it could be that we prepare a selection of difficulties and the player can choose. So it's just kind of like a waffly answer. It's not promising Quantum Forked Tower. It's saying it's a possibility. I don't think this is the place to do that. I think making it so the normal version just casually spawns, basically exactly like CLL. There's really no reason to break from the format of CLL. The only thing I would say is, while maybe this is divisive, I kind of think everyone in the zone should be able to go in. It shouldn't be like 48 people get picked and 24 people get left out. That's like a mild thing that was kind of frustrating with Bozia, especially early on when it's brand new and everyone in the zone who's max level probably wants to do it, especially like, the weekend or so after it comes out. But anyone who qualifies being able to go in makes a whole lot of sense. So that would be the one thing I would say. But a quantum version, I don't know, because at that point you're going to have to create a separate version of Forked Tower anyway, because there's no way they're going to let you like just choose, I'm just going to add offerings to the random one that spawns, and then all the random people in the zone are going to be like, what the heck, I don't want to do the high offering quantum version. They'll be like, well, too bad, I offered the offerings. So it's just like, if you're going to have to make two separate like ways for it to work anyway, you might as well just do two difficulties, because I just don't think we need a quantum mode for this. There just needs to be an accessible version for everyone, and that's the large portion of the feedback. So I think they're going to lean towards two difficulties for that. This is the general direction we've set for Final Fantasy XIV moving forward, and because of this new direction, it could be that the overall amount of content we implement in the game goes down. Let me finish. But in doing so, we hope that many more players will be able to enjoy the content we implement. That's a dangerous thing to say very publicly right now. What defines overall amount of content in this particular context? By adding quantum to encounters, does it mean that it will be just kind of part of the usual cycle and we'll see less sort of random ideas pop up like chaotic? Does it mean the sacrifice of something we're already familiar with? Maybe we're not likely to see a deep dungeon every expansion, or we're not as likely to see something like cosmic every expansion. What is the thing that's on the chopping block? And the problem is when you make a broad statement like that, the amount of interpretation is just, unfortunately, it can't be anything but doomy. It's impossible to see number go down and not get doomy. So there's definitely going to be a lot of commotion about that particular statement. While it's weird because Final Fantasy XIV has gotten to a point where there's a lot of content that is regularly in the game that does get updated as the game goes on, and it gets some sort of incentive added to it. But it's not like broad content that everyone does. Like Big Fishing gets new objectives every patch, pretty much, and then gets like, quite a few, especially at the end of the expansion when the most difficult fish come out. You have new treasure maps. We get fates and new fate rewards. We get new fate maps. We got gathering tokens, adding things to these activities that have already been in the game. New hunt mounts get introduced. We get Unreals, and the rewards from that just are literally ever expanding. But that being said, that's not the same as constantly adding new content. So like, while I am someone who partakes in like all of that, so I usually get a lot more out of any given patch cycle than a lot of the average player, which is a lot of the things he's been talking about as of late. When you say less amount, you're most likely impacting the patch to patch stuff, and that's been largely under scrutiny because most people aren't looking at the Big Fishing update and being like, I need to do that. There are people who do it, but it's not the game changer for Final Fantasy XIV. So Quantum has to knock it out of the park for this to even remotely be a long-form consideration. It has to show a significant bump in participation or in onboarding players to try something a little bit above what they would consider their average experience. And if Quantum can be used for that, then suddenly the numbers of players that are actively doing somewhat higher-end content, even if not on the highest level, goes up at a pace that I think they want it to. That being said, does it actually attract the casual players to play the more casual versions of these Quantum or variable style encounters? And I'm not convinced. I think Quantum is going to be, people will only do Q40, and that's it. I genuinely don't think anyone's gonna be like, oh, we want to farm Q15. You know, like, I just don't see that being a future for Quantum. And maybe I'll be proven wrong, but it's going to depend on the reward. It's going to depend on how satisfying it is. And it's going to depend really on what it actually means difficulty-wise to do the lower-end Quantum fights. Is it something that a casual player can actually feasibly do and feel good about it? Or even just a player who doesn't consider themselves hardcore, but plays at a decent level or has a few friends that they want to try something new with? That's going to be the big question mark that comes from Quantum. And like I said, there's no way to have any amount of confidence. It's nice to see them trying, but you can't call it a slam dunk until we've actually seen it implemented. With 14.8.0, it's the next expansion, yet still yet to be announced. Yoshida isn't ready to offer any hints, although he's happy that the team is on the right road to achieving its stated objective for Dawn Trail of offering more unique fights. He says there's no set goal in mind for how this might evolve, but adds it's always the case that we want to provide a unique battle experience. I think with the response we have had, we are making good progress. Dawn Trail encounters, for the most part, have been a slam dunk. They still have an issue with making interesting tank mechanics. We have seen some better tank engagement with some of the fights recently, but Valagar Manda told tanks, hey, we've got some new stuff for you to have to think about, and that hasn't been acted on enough. So if they're really looking to keep pushing the envelope, tank involvement needs to go up, because it's the one role, I shouldn't say the one role, because healers are going to have something to say about that, but it's the one role that genuinely is a little more confusing in terms of responsibility, because the actual part you play defensively is not enough of a focus. Healers, at the very least, have to manage all of their off globals. Week 1 can be really, really rough when you don't fully utilize your kit properly. But as the weeks go on, it gets easier and easier. No surprise there, especially once you have the experience with healing any of the individual fights. But that being said, at least healers, there's a clear method for them to actually fulfill that role, whereas tanks really are just the DPS that takes the hits and occasionally presses a button. So we really need to see a bit more creativity in that regard. As for what's to come in the remaining post-Dawn Trail patches, Yoshi gives us a slightly clearer schedule. The next raid is going to be implemented 7.4, of course, and probably in patch 7.5 there will be a new ultimate. The probably there is concerning because it is not, there will be. It is good to hear they were actually aiming for 7.5, but the probably is, again, going to scare some people. I'm feeling pretty confident that they are going to get it in 7.5, 7.51 to be completely honest, but I just don't like the uncertainty in that statement. I think that that will also be quite a unique experience. So players who really like to tackle high-end content should be able to really enjoy that. Those are already pretty expected, but one question that's long been on players' minds: where's Beastmaster? For 7.4, we are quite into the development and we are making good progress on this. For 7.5, the new limited job Beastmaster is going to be implemented. I've been saying it would be 0.45 and 0.55, and every patch we didn't see the Blue Mage update. I figured Beastmaster was going to be in 0.5x, and whether we don't know if it's 0.51, 0.52, 55. We don't know where it is in that, but look, 7.5x somewhere is going to have Beastmaster, and also the new Ultimate raid. Now it seems more definitive. Like, yeah, that's when we're doing it. So I feel like the probably was the safety comment, and this was Yoshi-P kind of talking off the cuff, just like, yeah, and Ultimate. Like, just making it seem like it's a foregone conclusion. So maybe it's not so bad, but the probably will concern people. Because of this, it is extremely hard on the development team. The battle team working on the development team is really at the battle team working on the development is, I said team too many times, is really at a loss. For 8.0, we haven't even announced anything, so I'd say hypothetically, if we are working on it, it is smooth. Okay. Also arriving in October is the crossover with Wilds, which will bring Guardian Arkveld. Yeah, I really didn't think this was going to be now. I felt confident we were going to get one. It has been so highly requested. Like every year, at least 3-4 interviews ask, when are we getting another Monster Hunter collab? When is it happening? And so it seemed like a foregone conclusion with Wild. So Yoshida confirms the idea came about when he went drinking with... Dude, all these ideas happen when he's drinking. Capcom's Yuya Tokiro and Kaname Fujioka from the Monster Hunter team during Gamescom last year. Fitting, it's the 1-year anniversary. However, he notes that they had to wait until WoW's launch and the 14 team had time to play it and figure out how the collaboration would work, estimating that the development process ended up taking up almost 5 months. That's a lot. Yoshida reflects on the Rathalos fight implemented in Stormblood. 14 is not an action game, so the development of that battle was quite difficult. We have to put a lot of work and detail into this, and the development process of this has been very intricate. We'll get more details in September, but he does hint. One thing I can say is, don't pay attention to the cast bar, look at the monster's movement. Yeah, it's exactly like Rathalos, so there's no surprises there. In closing, Yoshida is really emphasizing his desire for players to get in and try Pilgrim's Traverse when 7.35 hits. I want to get all of the feedback from players, he says. Whether you're a deep dungeon veteran, a complete newcomer, a hardcore solo enthusiast, or a savage and ultimate raider who might normally skip this feature, he wants to hear what you think of the changes. Yeah, I think it actually is really important. The deep dungeon changes. Quantum has really kind of dominated a lot of the deep dungeon discussion, but it can't be overlooked that the entirety of 1 to 100, there's an attempt at accessibility there. And incentivization, the challenge logs being added, all the extra checkpoints being added, not needing a fixed party anymore for the later roles, the addition of the floor 99 practice boss. Like, they're doing a lot to try to make it so that players feel like they can actually approach this style of content. The worst part, of course, still being Palace of the Dead 1 to 50 is required. Even with the changes to 1 to 50. Still kind of rough, but maybe they'll just give you so much ether pool in early Palace of the Dead that it really won't matter anymore. And you'll just be so strong that you'll just mow over everything with barely any like healing potions, and regardless of which job you're actually playing. But we do need as much feedback on everything about Pilgrim's Traverse as possible, because they have said we are listening. They are, and it's very clear that they're listening with great intention to make sure that whatever is said, they can parse through that and come up with like real solutions to things. And I think now is the time more than ever to be able to form a well-constructed opinion on features as they come out. They are so laser focused with everything that's been going on, with the apologies, with how they've been trying to fix Fork Tower, and how their idea of like what can make Cosmic better and how they want to proceed with difficult. They're laser focused right now. So having a voice, this is the time. Just make sure that you get all your thoughts through in there, and that, you know, it's well put together, because it matters more than ever that it is. Think about returning. There's a free login campaign. Okay, so that's the end of the interview. Yeah, again, there's a few kind of concerning things, a few kind of exciting things mixed in with there. Some things we expected, some things those of us were predicting. Ultimate in 7.5x, like I've been saying it since before we even confirmed we weren't getting one in 7.3x. I've been saying I think they're going to go for 7.5x. It's something they tried to do based on feedback historically and failed because of conditions way outside their control. And so I figured they just wanted to do that. That being said, the whole less content statement, very brave thing to say in an interview that they know is going to be seen by a lot of people. And yeah, the real kind of reliance on Quantum to be a good thing is concerning, because if it doesn't do well, what is the other plan, right? What is the next thing on the drawing board? And so I'm curious. We have the Relic grind, and we have the new Cosmic coming out probably in 9 days from when this video is coming out. Should be a total of 4 weeks if they stick to pattern. We know that the Monster Hunter collaboration's early October. October 7th was my predicted date for 7.35, so that is the day of Deep Dungeon. That is the day of Quantum, the day of Monster Hunter, the day of the Tribes, the day of Manderville, of all those things coming out on that day. So it's going to be a big one. It's going to be an important day. It's going to be an important next couple of months as we eventually end up waiting for 7.4. But anyway, let me know what you thought about this interview in the comment section of the video below. Are you a little bit doom and gloom about some of these statements, or do you have some optimism that it's kind of just you don't really know enough about what they mean by it yet? You know, just let me know what you're thinking in the comment section of the video below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned. We've got some very interesting ideas coming up on the channel. I've been inspired lately by some very odd things, and I think you'll understand what I mean. But I've got a chunk of new content that I have thought of for the channel. Whether or not it'll work, well, I guess I'll be doing some testing as well. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one, and until then,